Welcome to this Thursday night webinar. Very pleased so many people have made it onto the call. Just while we're waiting some other people to join us, if I could ask anybody that's joining that hasn't filled in the poll, if they go to this URL here, they'll be able to join in the poll. If I quickly just have a look at the votes in so far. So the question was, what's the biggest marketing and sales frustration that people are experiencing? And what we can see is that these two areas here, and possibly this one, which is practice not organised, effective in selling skills, and not enough patience, are by far the biggest two issues that people are experiencing. So practice not organised and effective in selling skills, not enough patience coming in with about 21%, and outstanding treatment presentations not being followed up coming in with about 15%. So actually it's this organisation pain that people are voting that they're experiencing. If I very quickly just relate that to some studies that have been done in the past in general industry, not dentistry or even clinical practice, really the things that most people report that they're most frustrated with or have most difficulty with is generating leads, then qualifying leads, nurturing the early stages of the leads, and then handing that from sort of a marketing lead into a sales lead, which is kind of similar to what people are suggesting here. So this would be not enough leads, an understanding of treatment presentations not being followed up certainly would be an indication of this follow-up process not going on. A bit of a bugbear of mine, because actually if you look at what happens in business is, if you look at the percentage of companies making follow-up calls, most companies make one or even two follow-up calls, but then it drops away sharply as the number of calls required drops down. But if you actually look where business is done, only 2% of deals are closed, or businesses are relationships are sealed with one call. Goes up a little bit for 2, and then up to 4% with 3, and up to 10% with 4. But most businesses done after 5+, and really you need to be up to 6, 8 follow-up calls before you start to get to the position where business is being transacted. So to equate that, if you like, to dentistry, really you're talking about following up from web inquiries in an automated manner, following up from telephone inquiries, actually mailing out and doing something more than simply picking up the telephone and talking to the person to move things forward. A high degree of organisation needs to be in the practice to achieve that. This is the area I specialise in, and really this is where I spend most of my time with dental practices, but many other companies as well, other industries, is really optimising this process between attracting some interest. It's attracting traffic to website in terms of the digital age, whether that's with AdWords or search engine optimization, or simply telling people to go to URL, but then capturing the lead and following it up, and then converting that into a sale, and moving across into delivery, clinical delivery, and then move the customer across over time to get referrals and to get the customer to purchase whatever clinical treatments you're offering and is appropriate for them. So, okay, let's see where we're up to now. Okay, this is me, David Holland. I don't exactly look like that, but it's not a bad reference. I work in the area of sales and marketing automation. That's where I've gravitated towards in the last few years. As I say, I use Infusionsoft mainly as the engine that drives it, but I have a high degree of understanding of direct marketing as well as email marketing. Okay, so tonight what we're going to hear from is Laura Horton, and how the treatment coordinator will increase profits. Laura, as you probably all know, has been a treatment coordinator for a number of years in a very successful cosmetic practice. So that's where she learned her skills. That's where in that practice they did a lot of work to systemize the process. Two very smart gentlemen owning that practice and thinking very hard about how to move systems to make their business consistent and predictable in the same way as they prefer their dentistry to be consistent and predictable. So they didn't just work on their dental skills, which they did exceptionally well, they also worked on their business skills, and that's where Laura was first involved with treatment coordination. A couple of years ago she set up her own practice, Laura Horton Consulting. So what I'm going to do now is just hand over to Laura so she can give us some insight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, David, for your nice introduction there. Really like to thank you for taking time out of your personal life, as I know it's around 6 o'clock now, so thank you for paying attention and coming to listen to me after you've just finished with your patients for the day. So my name is Laura Horton, as David just said, and I work with dentists and their team to help them implement the role of the treatment coordinator to take their practice forward. I also help them to provide wow factor examinations to actually turn them into your favourite appointments, and also help dentists with better communication through photography as well. And my background is purely dentistry. I started working in dentistry around 15 years ago, and in that time I worked in many different practices. I also did a lot of temping as well in London and the Cambridge areas, which I absolutely loved. It was a fantastic learning experience, and I did as many examinations and courses as I could as a dental nurse. And then in 2004 I started working for a new practice, and within that practice I was then offered the role of a treatment coordinator, which I was extremely excited about. It was something completely new. I didn't know about it, I'd never heard of it before, and I was really keen to get going. And I was given quite brief training and a consultation form. I had my own diary in the software, and off I went seeing patients. And I was really kind of thrown in at the deep end and didn't think the experience was all too great. And I, luckily enough, worked for a fantastic man, and I went to him and I said, can we change this? Here's my ideas. And over the next 4 years, I actually spent time actively playing around with this role and making it into something really special. And I then became the practice manager for that practice. They had a training academy which I was organising as well. And in the end, I was actually managing both of their practices, doing TCO and organising the academy. So something really had to give. So I gave up the treatment coordinator role. I really didn't want to do that, but I am a firm believer in the fact that everything happens for a reason. And I did so. I trained other people in each practices to fulfil the role. They were fantastic at it. They also thoroughly enjoyed it. And for me, it was really rewarding to see them get so much from this job. And that's when I had a light bulb moment, because I've always wanted to work for myself. I've always wanted my own business. And that's when I thought, hey, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to put the role of the treatment coordinator into practices throughout the UK. And this is what I've been doing now. In 2008 I left my full-time paid employment, and for about the last 2.5 years I have been actively working within the dental community as a treatment coordinator consultant and putting this role into practice. So it's absolutely fantastic. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about this evening is how you're missing out on new patients, also how much this is actually costing you as well, the different scenarios in which you can use a treatment coordinator, and talk to you a little bit about your turnover and your profit as well. Now, as you can imagine, I go into lots of practices, I'm communicating regularly with lots of different practices, and the main thing that I am seeing consistently are that practices are just chucking money down the drain. And the reason for that is because at the beginning process, the systems aren't in place. And practices aren't measuring their numbers. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how many patients are ringing, how many of those book, and how many of those go ahead with treatment. And these are really key conversion rates that you need to know. And you need to be able to answer all of these questions immediately if anyone like me ever answers you. Now, I have only ever had one dentist be able to give me these answers there and then. That's it. Just one dentist when I've said, do you know what your conversion rates are? And every single month, this dentist, who I'm very happy to still be working with, rings off his numbers to me, and it's just music to my ears, and it's absolutely fantastic. But it's something you should be doing. You need to be looking at your beginning processes, because you need to know each month how much is a new patient worth to you. And I'm not just talking about band 1, band 2, but look at the private income that you get. How much is a new patient actually worth to you? Because if you let your front desk team know that actually every time that phone rings, that could be £500 sitting there, they do look at things in a different way. The other thing as well is you really need to look at how many people are ringing and how many people are booking, so then you know if you're offering the right things on the telephone. And just imagine that if you had 10 patients a week contacting your practice, and they're worth £500. Now, when you work this out, practices are either happy, sad, or it's right there around 500. So I do urge you to do it. It's a very simple and easy thing to do. So imagine if you had 10 patients a week contacting your practice, potential new patients, and they were worth £500. Well, in my experience, when I've looked at things, if only 50% of those book, then you've actually lost around £130,000 of turnover per annum, which is a huge amount of money. But when we've actually looked at things properly in practices, and I work with all different types of practices, from family general dentistry that do a lot of whitening, all the way through to high-end implant and cosmetic dentistry practices, which is also my background, the average treatment plan from all the results I've occurred is actually around £1,000. So if you lose 5 patients a week on the phone, you could in fact actually be looking at losing £260,000 a year, which is just a phenomenal amount of money. You know, what could you do with that? So £260,000 a year if you lose 5 new patients a week on the phone. Imagine if you're losing more than that. Imagine if your average new patient spend is higher than £1,000 as well. So the numbers really do need to add up for your practice. You need to see what's going on. The other problem, and the other area in which dentists actually sort of throw money down the drain, are the end processes when it comes to the treatment planning and presentation process. Many practices send the patient out to the front desk to see the lovely Sarah, to actually have their treatment plan given to them at the desk. Alternatively, what practices do is they tend to send it out in the post. And if you're doing either of those things, then you need to improve your processes, because all the patient does is just react to the fee. It's extremely embarrassing when you're on the front desk because the patient is saying, "How much?" It's just typical at that point in time that a new patient will walk in, or there's a queue, and a lot of others can hear as well. But also imagine the flip side. If you post things, if your patient's had a bad day, if they get in from work and they open this letter and it's got a bill there, and they simply do the same thing. They react to the fee, but they do that in front of their partner, children, friends, whoever they've got around their house. "Oh my God, I can't believe this. Look how much this is going to cost me." And dentistry's got this real negative perception in terms of, underquoting for treatment, when really you shouldn't do that. It's all about, delivering the right thing to patients and looking extremely professional. And where practices are really, really going wrong is that there's just not enough value in relation to the treatment and the fee. And that's where practices are going wrong, full stop. And I work with practices, the treatment coordinator really helps to build value in the treatment in relation to the fee. So they do a lot of work for you, which can really, really help you. So in terms of the treatment coordinator process, what you have at the moment is you have new patients that actually contact your practice. They are either sure they know what they want, or they're unsure, they don't know what they want. So what happens then is the ones that are sure, they book in an appointment to see the dentist currently. In terms of building a treatment coordinator into this process, what you can do is initially have the treatment coordinator see the patient first of all for around 15 minutes. So what that provides you as a practice is that your new patient appointment, instead of being 30 minutes, is now 45, or instead of being 20 minutes, is now 35, which again sounds good in relation to the fee on the telephone. So again, it's helping your front desk team out. So the patient comes in, they're not aware they're seeing the treatment coordinator first of all, they just think they're coming along for 45 minutes. They come in, they see the TCO, they give them a tour of the practice, they get all the forms completed, and then they go and collect the dentist from their room and bring them back into the consultation area. And at this point, dentist, you will then start the normal rapport building and fact finding that you do in the consultation room. Once you've done all that and you're ready to do the examination, you then take the patient to your treatment room and begin your clinical assessment. Once you have completed your clinical assessment, your treatment coordinator can help you in terms of putting the treatment plan onto the computer, gathering consents, estimates, information sheets for you. You then go with the treatment coordinator and the patient, and all 3 of you are back in the consultation room going through the treatment options for the patient. Once the patient is fully aware of the problems they have, risks associated and different options, the treatment coordinator can then stay with the patient while the dentist goes and carries on with their day. And what the TCO will do is they'll actually wrap everything up for you, sort out the paperwork, sort out the finances, get the appointment scheduled, and then see the patient to the door. Now, this is a really nice thing to do because all of this is happening away from the front desk as well. And I don't know about you, but I really used to find that new patients always had bigger treatment plans than your regular recall patients. So it's nice that this happens all away from the front desk, particularly when you're talking about money as well. So the second scenario is that you're unsure of, the patients are unsure of what they want to do. So they've contacted the practice and they've made a couple of inquiries, their questions have been answered, and then they say, well, thank you very much, I'll give you a call back. Now, hopefully on this phone call, the team refer the patient back to the website where you've got some kind of date to capture. Hopefully they'll offer to send them a brochure, and that's fantastic. But even if they do offer to send them a brochure, I rarely come into a contact with a practice that's actually following up on the brochure delivery 3 days later and seeing if the patient has any more questions. And then what you tend to do is you tend to put all these patients into one category and you call them shoppers. And I really do not believe in shoppers. There's no such thing. You've either met the patient's requirements or you have not. So let me share with you now how you can increase the number of so-called shoppers that you actually get into your practice. So increase your conversion rate on the telephone. So it really helps your front desk if you can actually provide the patient with a free of charge consultation. And this consultation is held by the treatment coordinator. It's the patient's first visit to the practice and they're only seeing the treatment coordinator on the day. They're not seeing a dentist whatsoever. So on the telephone, if your patient is going to fall into the category of a shopper, then what you can do is actually offer them a complimentary consultation with a treatment coordinator. It's a fantastic team member, a coffee and a chat to see exactly what the options and solutions are, and there's no obligation. And when you do this, you'll then actually find that the appointment is converting a lot more. So the treatment coordinator sees the patient on their first visit and that's it. They're not seeing anybody else on that same day. The treatment coordinator's responsibilities in that appointment are to build a fantastic relationship with all new patients, to provide outstanding customer service, and of course to build value in the treatments in relation to the fee. Their goal is to convert the patient into what I call visit 2, which is your normal new patient examination appointment where you do your treatment planning and you still do your presentation with the treatment coordinator as well. So that's how you can actually convert these people on the telephone but still get them into your processes. So the consultation itself, there is 6 steps to this consultation, and I'll let you know, you can actually get a copy of this and I'll let you know shortly how you can download a copy. But this is my version, my 6 steps to a treatment coordinator's consultation, and it is a very structured appointment. You know, the conversation is structured, it's a process, and it's all about listening and making sure you ask open-ended questions and building value at the right time. Treatment coordinators will also quote the patients for the treatment as well. And what they'll do is they'll do the opposite to what dentists do, and they will overquote. So they'll overquote to bring in, you know, perhaps a filling that the patient might need. We obviously don't know, but it's much better if the patient gets a treatment plan that is the same amount that's been quoted or less. You know, it's fantastic. It's building more value, trust and respect for you as a practice. The TCO is also fantastic, and I train them to sell the patient, the practice to the patients and also the dentists as well. And it's very hard for you as dentists to sit there, to be talking to your patients, telling them why you're so great, you're so fantastic. Let the treatment coordinator do that for you. And if it's somebody that already works for you, they believe in you, and when they're talking about you in a positive light, it shows as a truthful thing. So they really help to convert your patients from inquiries, but also from treatment plans to treatment uptake. And one of the great things they do is they close. They are excellent at wrapping things up and getting an answer from your patients. And not every patient goes ahead, of course not. But if they don't, they'll have a proper follow-up system in place. And this is what David was talking about earlier. they'll have a proper follow-up system in place that they can keep using and coming to stay in touch with that patient. And when that patient is ready, they can then convert them into treatment. Now, in terms of treatment planning, another couple of systems that I like to put into practices, the treatment planning itself, you know, if it's a small case, filling in a hygiene crown or RCT, just do what you normally do, present there and then using your treatment coordinator. But if you actually have a larger case, I always recommend that you bring the patient back. And that's really, really important because you need to build value. Bigger cases equal higher fees. So you need to bring the patient back so that you can build value. And believe it or not, patients actually really like this. Again, it's about using the right verbal skills, and they're things I'll help you with, so that the patient is fully aware and actually they feel special. It's also about momentum, making sure that if you bring them back, you do that within 5 to 7 days. It can't be a month later, you will lose that patient. But it's a really, really good system to use. And what that means is your treatment coordinator can prepare absolutely everything for you. They're there when you bring the patient back, they're in that appointment, but they can do so many things for you, such as creating presentations using the patient's photographs and x-rays, so that when the patient comes in, you look really, really slick and really professional. Again, you're just building value the whole way through. So I know you want to know about the finances, what's this going to do for your business, and I've chosen a couple of different practices to give you an example of, so you can see how it's worked for them. Now, this practice, they were currently offering free consultations to all new patients. The dentists were holding these and they were half an hour each. So this was costing the practice quite a lot of money. The dentist's hourly rate was a lot lower than it could have been. And in August 2009, their income was $41,000. And in September 2009, after using the treatment coordinator for 2 days a week for 1 month, their income increased by 61%. Now that's because of the correct processes that they were using, and that was the free consultations, the treatment planning and the presenting. All 3 of those processes they used, and this increased their income by 61%. Now, another practice that I'm going to show you now is by far the most outstanding that I've ever seen, and I'm always saying to people, try and beat it if you can, let me know, because it would be great, but it's a hard one to beat. But I just want to show you what really is out there and available to you if you put your heart and soul into changing the processes in your business. So this practice had a treatment coordinator working 1 day a week, which was the Thursday. It was also their late night, and this was something that they advertised. So they advertised free consultations on a Thursday, and it worked really well from them. Now, this practice, their case acceptance rate was 75% at that point in time before they started using a treatment coordinator, which is pretty good. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is the practice I mentioned earlier on who actually did know their numbers right from the start. And in 1 month, their treatment acceptance rate increased to 87%, which is fantastic. I mean, it's just such a great increase, but their income increased by 80%. And this is, you know, a standard income that I see in a small private practice, around £20,000. And, you know, to go up to 36 in 1 month is absolutely amazing. It really, really is. And in terms of, you know, we're talking here about turnover, but if we're talking about profit, to be honest with you, in terms of turnover, the average I would say is a 40% increase in your turnover. Now, maths isn't my thing whatsoever, so just give me a second here. But if you increase your turnover by 40%, if your overheads are at 65%, if we use this as a basis of a practice like I'm showing here is currently taking around 20 grand a month, then doesn't that work out to around 30,000 increase in net profit per annum? I think so. I'll have to work that out. I should have done that before today, sorry. But, you know, 30 grand net profit increase is absolutely fantastic. I don't think anyone's going to say no to that. Obviously, you have to look at your business as a whole and make sure that all things are right, all your processes are right and everything. Now, the free copy of your 6 steps to a successful new patient consultation, you can download that now by clicking the like button on my Facebook page. So if you just go onto Facebook and search Laura Horton Consulting, press the like button and you'll get that free download. There's lots of other things within it as well. And I also have a one-day course for treatment coordinators on Friday the 7th of October. It's treatment coordination for beginners. The fee is £250 plus VAT, but actually if you book for the 17th of August you'll save 50%. So what I'm going to say now, David, is over to you, because I'm all talked out. I'm sorry if I've been talking at the speed of light, but this will be recorded so you can have another catch up. Please feel free to contact me. I'm on Twitter, Facebook. You can also have a look at my YouTube channel as well.
Well, thanks very much, Laura, for some great insight there. I'm actually recording this a couple of days after the webinar's gone out, just in order to get some the feedback. People were emailed the feedback link. I know that a lot of you have replied to that. Thank you very much. Anybody that hasn't already replied to that, please go ahead and fill it in. Although it's too late for this this sort of screen capture, it will help us come up with what you're really looking for. If I just quickly flick back to my survey results, thank you very much. Most people thought the webinar was excellent or good. Thanks so much for that. I'm sure Laura, who's done an excellent job, appreciates that too. Everybody who voted said they would attend another future webinar, which is smashing. And here is the subject you like covered. So the winner at the moment is email marketing, which is fine, my sort of favourite subject. So can certainly do that. Also sales training, and then social media coming in, use of surveys, SEO, and effective sales systems coming in after that. Well, we'll certainly take account of that and focus on email marketing. Probably is the next webinar that we'll do. I'll do that one in early September when I get back from my holidays, and when everybody's back and the kids maybe have gone back to school in first week of September. We'll look to do a webinar on that, and also look at sales training shortly after. Okay, how would you like the content delivered? Well, not surprisingly, everybody kind of wants free stuff, so not a problem. I'm more than happy to deliver free webinars. Bear in mind, guys, that at some point you've got to put this training into practice to make it worthwhile doing. So if you can figure out how to put it into practice from the webinars, absolutely fantastic. That's the whole point of doing them. So we'll keep doing them. That's fabulous. In terms of when people want to have the webinars, we get a clear winner really, which is between about 6 o'clock, which is when we pitch this one. Maybe a few people looking for 7 o'clock and onwards as well. Certainly on Wednesdays, but maybe Mondays and Tuesdays are the winners there. Okay, and some nice testimonials. So that's smashing. Thank you very much for that. That's what we'll do. We'll probably focus the next one on maybe a Tuesday, and then alternate between them and just see when we find the time when people would most want those subjects. So go ahead and give us that feedback if you haven't done also. There'll be a link in the email that I'll send out, and look forward to speaking with you and talking with you on webinars coming up shortly.